back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Caitlin. I am the Flutey Feminist, and each week I consult my Instagram followers to choose a video topic. I hope you're doing well today. I am less sick than last week, but I feel like I may just be perpetually congested for the rest of my life. Who knows? And I decided that for my videos now, I wanted to share with you a fun fact at the beginning of each video for fun. And the fun fact today is that this skirt, which I can't tell if you can see or not, but it's really flowery and fun and it has pockets. I bought it for $5 at a secondhand store. So that's today's fun fact. As you can see today, I have my flute with me. Didn't travel far, it was just in the room next to this one. But I brought it here to show you because the topic that we're talking about today, which is tips to improve your playing, I just wanted to demonstrate a couple things to make things make sense. So that's why my little flute is with me. And as a disclaimer, as you can see, I am a flautist or flutist or however you want to call it. And hopefully I think most of today's content can be applied to most instrumentalists and musicians, but some of it may just be flute specific. So bear with me, and hopefully maybe you can extrapolate or judge and see if you can relate something I say that's flute specific to your instrument in some way. But yeah, I just wanted to give that as a disclaimer. And I'm not really going to be giving practice tips specifically. This video is more going to be tips to improve your overall playing, things that you can reflect on, think about, and then implement when you practice. I can make a bunch more practice videos if you'd like. Let me know in the comments below. So we'll start with tip number 1, which is to exhale before you take a breath. Now, this is actually a kind of multifaceted tip. I will explain as I go. There's quite a few aspects to it that I want to touch on. And so basically last year I was working with an incredible flutist that I'm still working with, named Ariane Brisson, and she introduced me to this concept of once you put your instrument to your face, to actually exhale until you have no more air left, to stop for a second once you have no more air, to kind of stay where you are, and then to release and take your breath and then begin playing. There's actually a really great book that she recommended, which is this one, Checkup by Peter-Lukas Graf. And the first exercise is actually a breathing exercise, basically with long tones. And he doesn't specify to exhale before breathing, but he the exercise is all about kind of holding your position once you have no more air left, and then releasing to kind of let your tummy explode with air. But yeah, when I was working with Ariane, something that I've implemented is to exhale before inhaling. So I'll just demonstrate what I would do if I was like about to play. So here we go. I hope that makes sense. I know you can't see my full body, but basically I put my flute to my face and I exhaled and then I breathe. So the reason I do this is to fully fill up with air before I start playing. So I think of breathing as an instrumentalist, it's not the same as kind of breathing in your everyday life. You have to kind of think about things differently. For me, and I think most flutists specifically, we breathe low into our tummy and our abdomen. So for me, I kind of relate it to a gas tank. You have to fill up your gas tank fully so that you can go anywhere or do anything on your instrument. So I like to think of the exhale as kind of letting go of that normal people air. Wow, that sounds bad. Kind of exhaling the like normal breathing air so that you can start really from zero with a musician breath, if that makes sense. Also, it allows you to have time to think and prepare before you begin to play, which I think is really important, and I don't think musicians in general do this enough. We kind of often are just quick to and we just start playing, and we notice that we didn't take in enough air, we didn't play as softly or loudly as we wanted to, our tonguing's kind of weird. So I think when you exhale, you're really relaxing your body. You can be counting in the tempo you want to play whatever you're about to play in. You can be thinking about how you're going to attack the first note, what dynamic you want, what kind of tone you want. Another aspect actually is that this is most likely just a flute thing, but let me know if you play another instrument if this could work for you. But on the flute, if I'm already prepared to play a G, for example, I can, when I'm exhaling, if my fingers are prepared for the G, when I exhale, I can actually hear the pitch. I don't know if you can hear that. But just when I'm exhaling normally, with my fingers prepared for the note I want, I can hear the pitch, and that's another aspect of preparation, is actually literally hearing the note you're about to play. And when I do that, when I really make sure to prepare properly like this, things end up going a lot better than if I don't exhale before breathing and if I just kind of go without thinking. Obviously, you might be thinking that this could add a bit of time to your playing experience, and I guess it does, but at the end of the day, it's actually really better in the long run. You're going to be more efficient once you do begin playing after your breath. You won't have to stop and start so much. And on the topic of stopping and starting, something that is kind of related is when I'm practicing and when I'm playing, if I mess up or want to start over again, I make sure to exhale and breathe properly again. So it's not just for when your instrument is down and then you put it to your face and then you exhale and then inhale. It's also as you're playing, if you need to stop for any reason, I strongly recommend doing that same exact thing. So to demonstrate, I'm going to play G flat major scale, and I'm doing it from memory, but even if I wasn't, inevitably there's going to be a point at which I mess up, okay? It's not an easy scale on the flute, bear with me. But I chose it for this purpose to show you when I inevitably mess up, you'll notice what I do. So this is how I would practice a scale and restart if I was actually in a practice session, okay? Real life, right? A real life scenario, this would be what was happening if I was really practicing. I didn't love certain things, or sometimes I forgot which note to stop or start on, or that sort of thing. And as you notice, at least most of the time, I made sure to and then play again. So this doesn't mean that you're just like never now gonna play wrong notes or anything like that. Clearly, it wasn't perfect even after doing that process. It's just I'm giving myself the best chance possible. So that was me with the best scenario possible. Embarrassing, but anyways, I play other things much better. So that's my tip number one, is to always exhale, and ideally until you have no more air, but just a quick is still helpful, before you inhale. Tip number two. This is probably going to kind of be related to what I just talked about, but in general, it's to be intentional with everything you play. This is probably something that most of you already have down, but this is something that has kind of affected me in my whole life with flute playing. It's the kind of key to what I was missing in my learning and in my journey. And it really took me years to realize this and then implement it. So obviously I'm still working on it, but I think I've gotten much better. So I like to think of playing an instrument and practicing. I like to think that you always have to have conviction. So it doesn't matter if you're playing a scale, if you're doing long tones, if you're noodling on certain, finger patterns. It doesn't matter what you're doing. You have to have conviction in it. You have to be intentional. You have to have a goal. And it doesn't always have to be, conscious. You don't have to think to yourself, okay, my goal is to do this right now. That's not what I do. What I think of is just that while I'm taking that breath and doing the process of preparing to play, I also prepare my brain to be like an artist, basically. It's really about making sure that you're thinking about performing as well. Like, so you could even think of practicing a scale. You could think to yourself, okay, maybe one day I might do a master class and the teacher will ask me to play a scale. What would I do in that situation? And I think it's really important to visualize that, even if you're just practicing scales, so that you sound like an artist all the time. We're not, music making machines. We are artists. This doesn't mean you have to like move and perform a dance while you play scales. But I think it's just really important to mentally think about what you want to get out of what you're about to do. So the key words for me here would be conviction and intention. And this goes, for when you're in your lesson too, or playing for friends. It's important to not be too self-deprecating, because then this will really help with your confidence. And when you go and perform music in another time, you will feel more comfortable because you've kind of already rehearsed what it feels like to be confident and to be convincing to people that are listening to and watching you. When I watch professional musicians that I think are amazing performers, what I notice is that they have clearly thought about, rehearsed, and planned every part of their music making and performance. Every gesture is intentional. They're not letting their fingers or their breathing or the music control them. They're controlling what they do, and that is an active decision. You can't just let yourself kind of play without thinking. That's what I've done for years. Trust me, I'm speaking from experience. It's not fun because you never feel in control and you never feel confident, and that's what the audience can see too. You will feel more in control when you perform if you think about how you want to play everything you play in your everyday life. Another aspect that you can use for this tip is to think about faking it till you make it. That's what I did at the beginning of this kind of realization. When I went to the Orford Academy for my second summer a couple of years ago, it's a really funny story. I had like a head cold, so I wasn't feeling great. The teacher, who was Julien Baudimont, he spoke to us the day before we were going to start the master classes, and he was like, okay, we're going to start tomorrow, 9 a.m., no accompanist, just solo rep. And then he proceeded to choose the order in which we would go, and he picked me first. So I'm sitting there going, I have to play something tomorrow at 9 a.m. Oh, okay. And I honestly, genuinely, in my head, I was like, okay, what would Julien do? How would he play? How would he walk, like get up from his chair and then stand in front of himself, and how would he play? And I decided to do that. I thought about it, and the next morning I warmed up, probably not enough, and I went and I played, I think, a Brahms excerpt, and I could tell that it sounded convincing because I pretended that I was as convincing as he is, and then I just was convincing. So that's kind of what I mean by having conviction, is to feel like you belong where you are, that you're taking up space with your playing, and just basically feeling confident. So practice your scales, your long tones, your articulation exercises. Anything that you do with your instrument should be done with intention. Tip number 3, don't practice every day. Yes, this is controversial. Don't cancel me, please. I'll explain. This is maybe not something that's meant for every musician. I don't know. I'm certain pianists out there will laugh and close this video. But for myself and in my experience, I have never in my life practiced like every day for more than a week max. And now in my life, I don't practice every single day consecutively. And I think that it really helps kind of loosen up your body, relax your body, and to kind of get rid of some fatigue that you might be building up by consecutive days of practice. And it's always really helped me in the long run. Obviously, if you have rehearsals, concerts, performances, those, you can't really control when those are, so go ahead and do that whenever you have to do that. I'm really talking about practice sessions, like individual practice sessions. I don't think you should practice every single day of the year. And the thing is, yes, when I take 2 or 3 days off, I have to then kind of get back into the swing of things, but it takes maybe like 5 minutes to kind of feel like, okay, yeah, I'm back at it. And then I play normally and better, usually, than my previous practice session. Then, when it comes to preparing an audition or a performance, especially a recital, then I personally choose to play the repertoire at the time that I'm going to be performing it every day for a week leading up to that performance day. And I can do that without too much fatigue because I haven't spent like 3 months playing every single day, if you get what I mean, right? So I reserve the consecutive days of practice, a week's worth of consecutive days of practice. I reserve that for preparation, basically. So the week before an audition, concert, recital, anything you have going on. And then you won't feel as burnt out. Obviously, some of you might be thinking, but like, what about endurance or my chops? I want to be, I want to keep them up. And I get that. That's something that I sometimes worry about myself, but I always have to remind myself something that us instrumentalists don't like doing, which is exercises without our instrument. We tend to collectively think, in my opinion, that the only true practice is one where you're playing your instrument. And that's just a myth. It's just not true, and it's also not healthy. So I suggest not practicing for more than maybe 3 or 4 days in a row. And then on the days where you're not practicing and you feel worried about endurance or that sort of thing, do anything. Like for me, for example, when I had an injury and I couldn't play, what I did was just, I blew air pretending that I was playing. I just wasn't playing my instrument. So I just was sitting there learning a Divienne concerto going. And obviously it's not the same exact thing as playing my flute, but it wasn't nothing. You can practice articulation, double tonguing, you can practice all of that off your instrument. In fact, you probably should do that sometimes. And you can also do mental practice, score studying, listening to music, writing things in your score. So many things that we think aren't actually part of practicing, but they really are. That's what I recommend doing on days when I think you should not be practicing. So for me, whenever I take at least one, but usually between 1 and 3 days off in a row, I come back to playing. I always feel like my tone has like opened up like doubly. I feel like my breathing is much easier and even deeper than usual. And in terms of articulation, yes, that is one aspect that I find isn't as easy to get back into, but everything else comes back better than my previous practice session. So in my experience, it's only ever helped me. And as I said, I wouldn't necessarily recommend doing that like 3 days before a graduate recital, but it's more so just like during the year to remember to take a couple days off in a row and not to practice too many days consecutively. I think it just wears us out. It gets us grumpy too, and we then start like getting fed up with the music we're working on. That's something I struggle with, is to make sure I'm still engaged with audition rep or recital rep. So if I were to practice for like 3 months in a row, like every single day, I would be so like unmotivated by the time I have to perform this stuff. And so hopefully this tip will help you get a bit more motivated and actually improve a lot of your playing aspects. I'm going to stop here for today. Those are my 3 main tips to improve your overall playing. So I hope you found some of this interesting or helpful. Obviously, please let me know in the comments below. I would love to know your thoughts. Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. The links are down below. And if you made it to this point in the video, you get 3 bonus tips. Yes, because I know that this video is probably very long already. So if you're still here, I'm going to give you some bonus tips that are a bit smaller. One is to use a mirror sometimes when you practice. So either just for your face, like a small mirror, or if you have a mirror at home that's full length, that's really useful. It's just really to be aware of and to monitor how much movement you're doing when you play and to see if that's disruptive or not to your execution. Another thing is, if you're learning a certain technique or monitoring your embouchure, shape, anything like that, it's really helpful to see it as well as feel it. I wouldn't only play in front of a mirror because then your ears might go to sleep and your eyes might just be the only ones working, and that's not useful as a musician. But once in a while, I think it's definitely helpful to practice in front of a mirror. Another tip I have is, I don't know which instrumentalist this will apply to, but for me it works. I put Vaseline on my lips at night, every single night, and this keeps my lips basically not too dry and cracked just all year round. This was a tip that a friend of mine told me maybe a year and a half or more ago. I've been doing it ever since, and it really, really, really helps. I never feel, as a flute player, our lips are actually a huge part of our sound production. So what kind of state they're in actually really matters, at least in my experience. So just, nightly putting on Vaseline has drastically improved the consistency of my tone. And the third bonus tip I have is to maybe get a septoplasty. That's what I did. So I had a deviated septum. And after a while, I thought to myself, I think this is an issue. Not only for my flute playing, but like my overall life. I think this is something I'd like to fix. So thankfully, in Canada, I could do it for free. I saw an ENT, I got a septoplasty, so my ENT fixed my deviated septum last May. And it's not like it's a magic fix for my playing or anything, but I definitely noticed that I had an easier time to breathe and I could take in more air more easily through my nose or my mouth if I needed to. It helped my sleeping. I don't think I snore as much, but who knows. And I think overall it just helped kind of my breathing apparatus. So honestly, if you know you have a deviated septum or something in your ENT that isn't great, I honestly do recommend getting it checked out. As I said, I'm not saying that it's gonna make you actually physically necessarily play better and win competitions, but if it affects your breathing, I think it'll affect everything, even if you're a string player. I think it's important. So if you think you have a physical issue, just get it checked out. You're not, I'm not going to gaslight you into thinking that that's not affecting your playing. I think it did affect my playing because I could notice that it affected my playing positively after I had the surgery. So clearly before, it wasn't helping me. So yeah, get your physical body checked out once in a while. Yeah, that's my other bonus tip. Thank you so much for watching. I'm gonna finish here. You make sure, please, to subscribe to this channel. You can do so with the subscribe button below, and to hit the bell notification to get notified when I upload a new video. It's always gonna be on Thursdays, but I'm experimenting with different times of the day. You can check out my flute performance channel right over here, and right up there is my latest video. Thank you so much for watching, and have a flutey feminist day.